You let one ant stand up to us, then they all might stand up. Those puny little ants outnumber us 100 to 1. And if they ever figure that out, there goes our way of life. It's not about food. It's about keeping those ants in line. That's why we're going back. Does anybody else want to stay? Let's ride!
Monday. It's a Monday. It's a Monday. And I know the last time I was on, I had a Quite National shirt on as well. But it was a different color. It was from a different printer, too, from years ago. This is the new one. Well, the newer one that you can get on Rise Attire today. So, just to let you know, I know it's been days and days since the last time you saw me, but it's not the same shirt. And even if it was, you'd have to go work under the assumption that I've washed it since Thursday night. And if you don't believe me, if you think I don't clean myself or whatever, then I can't compete with that. I just can't. I try to present myself as clean. I'm clean presenting. Am I passable? That's what I ask myself every night. Okay, welcome to the show. It's another stroll through the park here on a Monday night. It's going to be a slightly shorter week. But for those of you who are subscribed to me, are supporting the show through Patreon, Subscribestar, and everywhere else, I will be updating from the road. I'll have public updates from the road too, for the little weekend that me, Lauren, and Aurora have together. And but we have so much to do tonight. We've got Christopher Knowles coming on. This is the first time he's been on this year so far, so he's going to be coming to talk about narratives and memory and the strange gap between reality and the stories that we are told. We've got World Cup visitors that continue to pump us up for the 250th anniversary of this nation's Declaration of Independence. Better than any statesman has, I'll tell you that much. And so much more going on. I also found a video that I've been sitting on for a while that I wanted to wait until Mr. Knowles came on, that had to do with streaming services and, hard copy media, whether it is a Blu-ray, DVD, VHS, 8-track, I don't know, whatever the hell it is, but just the whole concept about how people abandoning having some sort of a physical library of books that they like, music that they like, movies, television shows that they like, that abandoning physical ownership of things and relying on streaming services is going to eventually open you up to maybe very subtle editing of those shows and movies and stuff like that. I have an example tonight that I bookmarked for this evening a couple of weeks ago. So I can't wait to talk to Chris about that, and I hope you guys are feeling good. Yes. I have a lot of people I talk to, and for a long time, maintain your libraries. Become a personal archivist. Of all things that have to do with you, your family, about my personal archiving projects that I have with family videos and things like that, because nobody else gives a shit to do it. And then also, that even comes down to, I feel like if you care about the hard copies that you own, that even comes down to how much effort are you going to put into making sure that you actually spend physical time with friends and family and extended friends, family, whatever it is. Bring all the branches of the family tree in. It takes a little bit of time, but it's better than being left vulnerable to all the editing that's going on, the true memory holding out there, which may one day be the source of most of the Mandela effect theory examples. We always get into like mystical questions about what could have stopped, what kind of timelines could have been jumped at one point, what timeline could have been split, what, particle collider in Europe could have caused it all, or whatever the hell else like that, that made us forget or come to some kind of a point of contact, some friction into how we remember certain lines from certain movies, or what was on our tighty whitey underwear, the cereal boxes, anything else like that. Perhaps over time, most of it will be even more easily explained, but I guess not if it's done subtly. So we're going to talk about that and much more. I want you guys to call in at some point, so keep it all together. And in the meantime, let me show you something real quick. That is a message I got from YouTube on one of our videos, one of our wonderful videos that we put up over the weekend. This one was actually a video of the last episode of Taking It Back with me and Adel and Red Pill 78. And it said, nice, more subscribers. Very, very big distinction here. More subscribers are choosing to watch this video, helping to increase its reach. Okay? That's the kind of stuff that I get directly from places like YouTube. It's happening all over the place, but that is like in your face. Just always remember, everybody, whoever you enjoy watching out there. Obviously, if you come out and hang out with me more than a couple times a week, I consider you a regular. Whoever you enjoy watching, click on the content when it's out there, like it, leave a comment. If the platforms pick up that a subscriber is watching something, then the platform, whatever platform it is, begins suggesting it to other subscribers. It's ass backwards. It's an absurdity in and of itself. It's a stupid way of operating, but this is just what we're up against, people. So do not lurk. Whatever you like out there, love it down. Comments, likes, all that stuff. By all means. That is what was going to be needed to get to the next level here. And we're getting there, no doubt about it. And we're getting there. I have some stuff. We have a resignation from England. That'll be in the second half. That won't take much longer than anything else. We got a little bit on the Nancy Guthrie thing. This I'll throw up right now. We haven't heard anything about this since the winter. And then I saw that. Oh, no, that's not that. There we go. Nancy Guthrie ransom note to her family included rambling apology for accidentally killing her. This is from the Daily Mail. One of the disturbing ransom notes received by Nancy Guthrie's family included a chilling apology for accidentally killing her, according to a new report. A bizarre blackmail letter sent February 6th offered a return of the 84-year-old's body in return for money. The memo followed an earlier note to TMZ from the same sender they got nobody, which correctly described what Guthrie was wearing on the night that she was abducted and included information about damaged floodlight in her backyard. Guthrie, who is the mother of NBC News Today anchor Savannah Guthrie, kidnapped on February 1st. Initial message was to the sender was Guthrie was safe but scared and agreed to return her. The family paid $4 million. They added that if the ransom was not paid by February 9th, this would increase to $6 million or else. And then they said she's been accidentally killed and offered to deliver the body back to the family for the sum of the original $4 million. I mean, what the hell, man? So that's the first we've heard of this in months. Here we are knocking on July's door, and I don't know what else to say. We could take calls on that later on if you have any theories. I know there's a lot of sleuthy people out there in the audience. You've probably been doing digging, unimaginable digging on the subject, and I'd like to know where you're at on that one. So there you go. Oh, one other thing here, not to follow up something so terrible with something so, what I know is going to be hilarious. I guess I got the order of all this wrong. But Instagram has made a very, very big update. A very big update. And not only can you now reply and comment on posts with other reels or GIFs, but you can now reply to posts with pictures. Things that are not, I'm not talking about like, from Giphy or something like that, where you can go and grab something that's on a cloud somewhere and bring it in. I'm talking about the memes from your phone. I can unleash my hyper-specific memes now in incredible ways. I keep very few family photos on my phone. I got to say, I keep very few family photos on my phone so that I can have room for the memes. I'll keep a recent picture of Aurora, something that we've done as a family, whatever. After a couple of months, I'm deleting it. I've got it on drives. I've got it on a couple other places. Everything is saved in triplicate. I need room on my phone for memes. And now that I can, this is going to be stupid. I'm going to have so much more fun now. So ladies and gentlemen, wherever you see me pop up in the comment sections on Instagram, please take screenshots and all that stuff. Send it to me. Hey, I saw you here. I thought it was funny, or whatever the hell else. Please be on the lookout for me popping up in the comment sections now with the images. Oh my gosh, it's already a madhouse. It's a madhouse. Oh gosh, this is the golden age of Instagram. It'll all go away one day, but I'm telling you, you got to get in on it for a little while. Get in on it while it's still absolutely insane Wild West bullshit. So that's all we have. Okay, so tonight's guest, let's get him on here, because I have so many things to talk about, culture stuff and everything else. His name is Christopher Knowles, and I've got all of his links in the description of the episode, wherever the hell you find it, whether it's on air right now or after the fact. Christopher Knowles, an author, cultural researcher, longtime analyst of mythology, symbolism, the hidden currents that shape modern culture. Knowles is the creator of The Secret Sun, which is also linked in that. I pretty much gave you the link tree, and the author of several books, including The Endless American Midnight. I own that. You should definitely own it as well. And The Complete X-Files. His work explores the intersection of pop culture, religion, paranormal, history, and symbolic language that often hides in plain sight, which is why he fits in so nicely on this show. Christopher, welcome back to the show. It's great to see you.
Thank you, Frank. Great to be here.
Great. Are you? Well, first of all, happy Father's Day.
Thank you, sir.
And before we get into anything,
and I'm a grandfather too, so happy Grandfather's Day.
Happy Grandfather's Day. Jeez, well, that's it. You started young, and good for you. Everybody else is, we're trying to put the pedal to the metal here. We realize we were lied to, and we're trying to get as many in as we can late. But good for you. You bucked the trend early.
Yeah. Well, I'm turning 60 next week, so I'm not that young.
Well, you look fantastic.
Thank you, sir.
You must take your peptides.
Oh, yeah, I do. I take everything. I keep the doctors away with all sorts of supplements and so on and so forth. I had some really bad experiences with pharmaceuticals, so I find that the less you have to go to the doctor and the less you have to go to the drugstore, the better off you are.
No doubt. No doubt. Hey, before we get into anything a little bit heavier, let me ask you this. If you're going to sit down and you're going to put together, maybe a short list of really good Father's Day weekend movies to watch, what are you putting toward the top of that list?
Well, there's a movie I've been talking about that came out 10 years ago now called Midnight Special, and it stars Michael Shannon and what's her name? Kirsten Dunst and Sam Shepard. It's a great movie for the whole family, but it's not going to bore adults. Very, very, very much a story about the heroism of fatherhood and so on and so forth. I mean, it's very much a dad movie and shows, the power of good, strong dads in a crazy and unfriendly world. So that's my number one.
I think I've seen clips. I think I've seen clips from that movie on Instagram. So I know what you're talking about. I haven't seen it from start to finish.
Yeah.
Though.
It's a great one. There's another movie. I guess it's more of a Christmas movie, but if you want a movie to watch with your family, there's a movie called The Mighty from 1998, I believe, 99 maybe. Kieran Culkin, James Gandolfini, Sharon Stone, Gillian Anderson. Great movie. very wholesome, very uplifting.
The Mighty. This is what? Okay, yeah, I'm gonna have to watch this.
Yeah, that's a great movie. Save it for Christmas, though. Watch
Will do.
watch it with your family at Christmas. It'll be here before you know it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it is. I mean, we're blinking over here. It's already half over. I was over
crazy.
the weekend. I have a film club with my with a lot of audience members of mine, and over the weekend it was one of those film club weekends. And on Friday night at 9 o'clock, I said, you know what, we're watching this month, and I hadn't seen it in years, and I used to watch it all the time, and that's A Bronx Tale. And I watched it, I put it on, and I didn't realize how amazing of a Father's Day weekend pick it was until I realized the dichotomy between Calogero's two fathers, Sonny and Lorenzo. And man, I walked away, and we had a little bit of a talk with the audience after the fact during the credits, and I was just like, I can't believe how perfect of a pick this was for the weekend. I wasn't even planning it that way. So it made me want to see what would be at the top of your list, because that's what would be at the top of mine at this point.
Oh, that's a great movie. I don't know if I'd watch it with my whole family, but
no, I know. No, that's one day I have to wait a little while to show my daughter. But yeah, absolutely, father son. So, man, there's a lot of things going on. And when I think about culture and I think about what I want to speak about with you, I think about the 4th of July, the 250th, and what hit me now, a big anniversary. And I missed all the big anniversaries beforehand. I was born in 85, so growing up,
baby,
yeah, I've had
baby.
Comparatively to some, I guess, but the only thing I knew about the bicentennial was I would still get when I go to the convenience store and get some change, I would see the bicentennial quarters all over the time. You don't see them anymore now, but that was the only connection I had to a big anniversary. And 250, I wish that this was going to be a big deal, but have you been in the mood out there? Is everybody around you getting in the mood?
Well, these are troubled times. I was around for the bicentennial. I mean, I was very young, and it was a huge deal. Nothing like what we see today. I mean, maybe like 250 isn't as exciting as like 200. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think the country is so different now, and people have no sense of, pride in country or anything like that anymore. We've been brainwashed and demoralized for so long. And I would really recommend that if you haven't watched it yet, there's a great interview with an ex-KGB agent called Yuri Bezmenov. It's kicking around all over the place online. And he just basically explains what we've seen happen to this country in the past 50 years or so. We've just been this very concerted and very well-funded effort to basically destroy the country through demoralization and so on. I think that we're going to see a change. I think we're going to see people turn around from that, but it's going to be slow and it's not going to be pretty. So I don't really anticipate, I mean, what is it? It's 2 weeks away now. I don't see much going on, unfortunately. So there you go. I mean, we've been bombarded with witchcraft, really, spellcraft, for lack of a better term, what I call the sorcerarchy, for the better part of the last 10 years. One thing I'm working on now is I'm working on a video about the Gothard Tunnel opening ceremony, which most people seem to misinterpret. And I'm going to do a decode on that, because that was really the start of a concentrated series. Anytime you saw a large sporting event, anytime you saw some sort of award ceremony, you just saw all this crazy, sorcery, conjuring rituals. And I mean that quite literally. I think there's a great misunderstanding as to what sorcery and witchcraft are because of Hollywood and fables and comic books and the rest of it. And what it really boils down to is just screwing with your head,
Yeah.
demoralization, psyching people out. I mean, that's really what it is. And what happens, and what I believe we've seen, and I've been talking about this for years now, is that we've really seen a situation where people are becoming possessed. There's so many people who are weak. There's so many people who are lost. There's so many people who are sort of broken. And those people are excellent candidates for entity possession. And I think that's what we've been seeing. And I think that the rituals that I've talked about for so long were really about helping this process along, speeding this process along, where people who are already messed up from pharmaceuticals or recreational drugs or hormone treatments, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They become shattered. They are people who are just consumed by anxiety and fear and anger and resentment. And those people become just a perfect target for entity possession. As I said, this is something that a lot of people have a lot of trouble with because the parameters have been set by popular culture and so on. But these are things that 5,000 years ago people understood in many, many different cultures. It was just taken for granted that we're not here alone. We share the world with other forces, with other energies, with other entities, and that they use us, and they've always used us to do their bidding. And it was really studying ancient Babylon, which during like the Neo-Assyrian period had just become a basket case of witchcraft and paranoia and demonic obsession, possession. It was just unbelievable how it just overtook. And I think that once you open those gates, as we've seen, the gates were open for us, really. And like I said, all these sporting events, World Cup, all the different Olympics, Super Bowl halftime shows, all these types of things. People look at them and go, "Well, that's kind of bizarre," or people who are a little more tuned in will look at them and go, "What the hell? Why are they doing this? What is this all about?" But what it really is about is that it's necromancy, it's sorcery, it's conjuring, it's ritualism, and it has been around for a very long time, and it's worked very much the same way that it works today.
You're talking about it just on the possession aspect of it. It's funny because I often think about the people I'm going to be around when I'm going to a place, and I always really enjoyed the opportunity to get into a conversation, some kind of a dialectic with people who would not see eye to eye on certain things, but people that I know are under a very thin layer of Yankees versus Red Sox, my team, I like my team kind of loyalty shit. If you can kind of thin that away and get to the baseball fan underneath, just the fan of the actual game, like the fan of liberty instead of a political party, you want to get to the American underneath at one point, just as an analogy. That used to be a very thin layer, and I knew that through a dialectic, you could get to the commonsensical person underneath and show them why there's no ulterior motive for not wanting one policy prescription over the other. Like one person doesn't want somebody dead because of it. It just might be because, hey, here's why we should be, I don't know. Everybody's representing themselves on something that is not so violent. And that's all gone. Like for me, I don't want to talk to, I almost feel like when I was young, my parents told me how to approach or not approach, how to just look straight ahead and keep walking in New York City. And don't talk to the schizophrenic people on the side. Don't, anybody that is lying on the side of the street, or if they're mumbling to themselves, you just walk straight ahead. You don't pay any mind, whatever. And it's crazy because I have to train myself to be that way with most people. And actually, instead of trying to engage people on certain topics, I know right off the bat who is absolutely unable to be reached. And I don't want to waste a minute there because I know we're just tapping into I don't know, a kind of a response that is not of this world, and that people are being driven by something that they probably can't control and never really asked about where it all came from. Just like you were saying, there's a program.
You see it all the time. You
Yeah.
see it everywhere all the time. You just see people just losing it. People just exploding. People just have been so heavy. Not only have they been ensorcelled, not even to coin a term, that's actually a term. They've also been propagandized. So at the same time, they're being hit with conjuring, ritualism, sorcery, spellcraft. They are also being propagandized and just ratcheted up with fear. And I think this is just inevitable. I think this is human nature. I think that technology has been the big changing factor from the ancient world. But people in the ancient world, ancient Rome, ancient Greece, they understood the fragility of democracies and republics. They understood that these things just tend not to last, and that, you know, the democracy inevitably gives way to tyranny, and which we're seeing. It's, you know, when you look at how much of the country is basically under de facto communist dictatorships, one party states, one party cities, your vote doesn't matter, all the rest of it. You just realize that we're just reaching a phase that I think the ancient Romans did towards the end of the Republican era in Rome. And that gave way to, well, first of all, that gave way to civil war. And then it gave way to the Caesars, to the emperors, to dictatorship. And I think that we're probably looking, unless there is some miraculous turnaround, which to be quite frank, I do not anticipate whatsoever. I think that we are looking at very difficult times for the next 20 to 30 years. And I think on the other end of it, we're going to see some type of authoritative dictatorship. Maybe there'll be the window dressing of a republic or a democracy, but it's basically going to be probably a technocracy. And we might see, as many people have been prophesying, a return to some sort of feudalism where your life is basically dedicated to your master, to your house, and the house being, you know, a particular corporation. Now, I would love to tell you that this is not unavoidable. I would love to tell you that we can turn things around. Human nature, I think, argues otherwise. And also the fact that 100 years ago, even, you had a situation where people who acted the way you see so many people act today out in public, there was no tolerance for it. Those people would be removed from society. They'd be put into asylums, so on and so forth. In the Middle Ages, they'd all be executed, probably even before that. I mean, maybe even during the Roman and Greek periods. There was no tolerance for the kind of just mass scale dysfunction that we see, the criminality that we see, the like I said, the acting out, the very, in some ways, it's very childish. But I think that the infantilization of our society has also been part of this. So we've really gotten like a full course for the past almost 20 years now, where we've been bombarded with all this ritualism, sorcery, propaganda, the evolution of political parties and basically into cults and a very cultic mentality, but also this propaganda that has started in the schools for quite some time now, that really should have been quashed a long time ago. The fact that people are reading like Howard Zinn in high school, and it's just absurd. I mean, first of all, his scholarship is very highly questionable, but that's not even the worst of it. That's even like all the genderqueer stuff in the schools and everything like that.
Though, and we're talking about titles that fly under the radar too. There's
so much, and it happens all the time because parents are busy. They don't have the time to pay attention. And what we've seen over the past 10 years now is a very highly authoritarian and punitive system where if you show up at your local town meetings or your school board meetings and you raise objections, I mean, you get put on watch lists, so you get arrested. I mean, we've seen this over and over again. And I don't know how long that can sustain itself. I mean, really what we've seen is there are a lot of ideas that kicked up during the industrial age. And there was this whole idea of science that everything could be subjected to a scientific program. And that's where we saw socialism and fascism and all these isms, because there was all this idea that we could systematize human behavior to a point that, as you see in Marx, it would just eventually run itself, become the self-sustaining system. These are all fantasies. But we also see the groups like the Fabians, which was sort of the soft-boiled version of that. And today, as we speak, we've seen the resignation of Keir Starmer, who is pure Fabian, and everything that he's done in his short term, his mercifully short term in office, has been by the Fabian guidebook. It's all textbook Fabianism.
Even just for the standpoint of how short he was going to be around. I mean, because as you know, obviously, that is just it's a very, very small, how do you eat an elephant kind of approach. Very small little alterations to a country, a government, whatever, until people over time, their behavior has been completely changed into something that is something other than, it's definitely a British way of life. But I mean, he's out there. It's just general loss of confidence. He's out of there. But now it seems like you get a new prime minister over there every 8 to 9 months. And I'd have to imagine it's because by design, like you say, you just keep heaping it onto somebody else until somebody just as feckless shows up. But there's no way that anything can actually get better if you're not allowed to address the country's most threatening issue of cultural identity loss or public safety. You can't even articulate what the issue is. So the prime minister role has really just been reduced to a very short term of calling people racist and divisive for identifying problems that politicians have apparently sworn to ignore. And it's an abuse cycle. It's got to be broken. And every time something pops off over there in Ireland or in the streets of London, I'm always hoping, just for their sake, that this is the moment that they don't look back and they just keep pushing, because it's bad, man.
It is. What the situation with the prime ministers reminds me of is Rome's crisis of the 3rd century, when you'd have a Caesar serve for a month and then be assassinated and replaced, and rinse and repeat. And I think nobody knows how to fix Great Britain. I think they made a lot of assumptions that turned out to basically not pan out. And I think one of the things that I have a real problem with people in the truther or the conspiracy sphere is that they just assume that all these people at the top, what are these hidden hands? I mean, whatever you choose to assign these machinations to, people think, oh, well, there's got to be some sense to it. I might not agree with it, but there's got to be some sort of agenda that makes sense. And it's just like, no, these people are not only are they crazy and evil, they're also incredibly stupid. I mean, they're stupid and they've lived sheltered lives. Keir Starmer's probably never been in a fist fight. He just doesn't have any real world context for how things actually operate, because these are they're all rich. They all grew up rich. They all went to the same universities. They're all subjected to all the same Marxist nonsense, Fabian nonsense. And they don't know anything else. They just don't know anything else. And I've said many times that I think that the whole COVID thing was supposed to be the big push. That was going to be like, we were going to end up with the new world order on the other side of COVID. And if you look at how it rolled out, and if you look at all the word spells, build back better, great reset, all these kind of things, it didn't work, but it clearly was meant to. And I think the assumption is that you could get away with something that maybe you could have pulled off 20 or 30 years ago, but with everybody carrying around a camera and a microphone, they could see what was really going on out there. And there's also the fact that, people like Keir Starmer and Boris Johnson and Emmanuel Macron and whoever that idiot is in Germany and so on and so forth, all up and down the line, they're all just like weak bureaucrats. They have no common sense. They've never lived in the real world. They've been pampered and catered to their entire lives. They just don't know how anything works. They've never been, like I said, then never mind a war. They've never even been in a fist fight. They're all just pampered children. And the weird ideas that all these drug-addicted pederasts had in 19th century London just don't apply to the world as it is, and they can't let go of it. They just cannot let go of it. Mm-hmm. And, we're seeing the same thing in New York with Madami and that whole agenda there. I mean, he's never had a real job in his life. He's just a dopey rich kid. I mean, first of all, I can't for the life of me understand why people born in other countries are allowed to serve in executive positions in this country. I think it's insane.
Yeah.
But he's going to fail. He is going to fail. There is just no way around it, because doubling down on failed ideas does not make them work. Okay. All it does is prolong the agony for everybody. Right? So I think that we are going to see, and we are seeing, right? I mean, we're already in the process of it. We're going to see that all these ideas that were just sort of bubbling along in liberal arts colleges in Vermont all these years, once they're tried, once they are rolled out, they inevitably fail. And that doesn't mean that I'm I'm certainly not a defender of what I call, corporate capitalism or predatory capitalism or monopoly capitalism. All these, there's got to be, another option in between insane woke communism and techno-fascism. There's got to be a happy medium.
I know.
I don't know how that's going to come about. I really don't. But like I said, because religion, socialism, communism has always been a cult from day one, and it's filling the void that traditional religion once did in certainly in our country. People just need to feel like they're belonging to some great crusade, some great effort to improve the lot of humanity, no matter what that is. I think, like I said, it is going to collapse, and it's going to be very ugly. And I would love to tell you that representative democracy and a democratic republic, I'd love to tell you that it will survive this, but I just, the way it looks now, I just can't see it. There's just too many fails in the system. A chain can, well, let me try another. A machine, you can, this, especially one with built-in redundancies, if you start to lose, an operative process, or starts to run down, you'll have other parts of the system, parts of the machine that will compensate for that. what we've seen, particularly in the past 10 years in this country, is people just kicking away, just kicking away at the tires until they're flat and expecting the car to still operate. And a lot of it is, quite frankly, just spoiled rich kids who just never grew up, never had to grow up, never had to understand the way the world really works, or the value of a dollar, or the value of hard work. They have rich parents, and they were sent to colleges to study really stupid things that have no market value.
You know what it is
and they're wondering why everything's falling apart around them.
No, absolutely. And I actually see there's a little bit more of an intimate connection between the super rich and the dirt poor these days, because you go back a few generations, and even a poor person was connected to a family with dignity, and there was a community there. They may not have had much, but they had each other and all that other stuff. And what we've seen is that we're so undignified a society now by design, that there's also been such a huge familial breakdown that across the board, where there's this now, whereas we say, we have the super rich and the super poor, and they're nothing alike. Well, maybe the poor doesn't know it, because they're not only poor, but they've been made incredibly ignorant and infantile, like you were saying there too. But they are essentially the foot soldiers of the super rich. And
yeah. And again, that goes back. Aristotle was writing about this a couple thousand years ago. None of this is new. Okay. This is, I don't want to say that this is all like a program that's playing out inevitably somehow. And like I said, we do have the influence of technology, but these control techniques and agendas that we see, particularly in Europe, on an increasing basis, it's not new. It's all been written down. It's all been recorded. It's all been discussed. But the problem is that we become basically a culture without a history, without any background. This stuff isn't taught in school. 150 years ago, you went to school and you learned how to read Greek and Latin. You know what I mean? The literacy rate in the 19th century, pre-industrial America, when still most of the country was rural and involved in agriculture somehow, and the literacy rates were much, much higher than they are today. I recently read a statistic that half the country, as it stands now, is functionally illiterate.
Yeah.
And that is terrifying. Okay. That is terrifying, because you have to know how to read, not only so you can do things properly, but so you have reasoning skills, and you have skills of analysis. You're able to think things through. Okay. And if you can't even read, forget it. It's never going to happen. So, like I said, I'd love to come here and tell you that, don't worry, just be happy, trust the plan, things will all work out. I can't do that. I think that we have let so many problems fester. And, it's kind of like with your car. It's like, oh, it's making this really bad rattling sound. It's not going to go away by itself. You've got to take it into the shop and get it fixed, because these things don't resolve themselves. And unfortunately, with, the national car, with the collective car, we're having, the wheels are falling off, and, the rattling sounds up and down, and terrible gasoline smell. We've had so many, we're on the verge, let's just say, of so many system fails that, again, what we've known, what you and I grew up with, even though we're a lot different in age, is not coming back. It's gone, and it's not coming back. And what we have to do now, instead of trying to bring back the past, as if the past was independent of the environment and of the conditions that it existed in, is, look to the past, break it down, understand the basic concepts and the basic ideas, and see how we can bring that into the future. I mean, we have to start thinking about the future. There is no returning. I mean, not even to 10 years ago. Never mind 30 years ago. So.
That's why when all of the things started getting around on X and all other places about how 80 Pizza Hut locations were going to get the red cups back. I'm like, guys, it wasn't the cups. It wasn't the cups. You're going to go have lunch in a mausoleum. It's not those days are not coming back because they brought the cups and the salad bar back without the spit guard. It's just one of those things that's just. But I understand what you're saying, and
well, listen, I loved Pizza Hut. We used to go there every Tuesday night for the all you can eat for like $2.99. Playing the games and drinking the Coke out of the red cups and burning the roof of my mouth, and playing games that nobody's ever heard of, like Asteroids or Space Invaders. I mean, I love that. But it was the family. It was the family that made that work. Okay. It was the family environment. It was people bringing their families and having that experience together. One of the, we can't rebuild that, but I think we can take these fundamental ideas or these fundamental building blocks of these things that we once treasured and sort of transpose them. You know what I mean? Like, say you're playing a song on piano and you need to play in a different key because it's out of the singer's range. You have to transpose it. And that's the same principle that I'm talking about here. We need to break things down, understand things at their fundamental levels so we can make the things that we value part of this future.
Yes.
But the forms themselves are always reliant on the culture and the technology and the geopolitical events of the time. It's like, that's why we can't go back, unless you want to become Amish or something, we can't go back. There's this whole like trad movement and everything, which is fine, but it's like, it's just not good. You can't scale it up. It's not going to work on a society-wide scale because the conditions in which a traditional culture existed are all gone. Technology and travel, air travel. I mean, all these kind of things have basically destroyed the preconditions that you need to truly live in a traditional culture. So we have to think past that.
Yeah, you can't scale up the red cups, but like you're saying, you can't scale that. You can't scale that on a national level. But what you were saying before, it was the families, and that's what I was saying. I understand that. I understand growing up when I did what was special about it, and I look at my daughter, 5.5 years old with another one on the way, and I say to myself, okay, well, all right, what I'm going to work my ass off to make sure that they know what family and friends feel like. The red cups don't mean anything. That's just signs of the time. That's style at that point. But you can't negotiate. We as human beings cannot negotiate on the fact that we need social connections. We need familial connections. We need that. So that's something that I love, that despite what the world is doing and what the world has to go through, whatever throes it's in the middle of, people are getting back outside the house. They're having little block parties again. They're trying to reconnect or find new connections. It's the only thing. If there's anything to build on, that's what it would be. And speaking of the World Cup, the meme right now, which I love, and I'm sure you've seen it around here too. It's not so because I have not seen one match yet. But it is the.
I'm not a soccer fan.
Me neither. But it is the European soccer tourists right now that have taken a lot of attention away from all the, and in wonderful ways. The meme right now is that European soccer tourists are single-handedly tearing down 50 years of self-loathing propaganda in one tournament, because they're coming here And they have been propagandized about how terrible the United States is, just like people over here in the United States are brought up now being told how terrible this country was from the onset. And now they're coming over to see a soccer tournament, expecting that they're going to be gunned down in the streets and everything else, and they're seeing friendly people and they're loving it. That's been something that it's definitely been a bright spot of this summer so far.
Yeah. It's definitely refreshing to see these. I have a lot. I mean, I'm originally from Boston, and I still have a lot of relatives up there, and everybody's just ranting and raving about the Tartan invasion, right?
Yeah,
all
the Scottish
Scots, and they're all going to Red Sox games and just having a great time. Listen, everything that we've seen that pertains to globalism or socialism or whatever wokeness, it's all fake. It's all a lie. It doesn't work. It's never worked. Okay. The delusion, the sales force is very effective, and the delusion is very powerful, but it's never ever worked. Okay. It's always been fake. It's always been an imposition. And I think really what we saw with the Obama administration is that people were so disgusted, and rightly so, with George W. Bush and his crowd, all those maniacs and idiots, that they were looking for a change of pace, but they didn't realize that, the people, particularly the people behind Obama, hate America. They want to destroy America. I don't know about Obama himself. I think he's just sort of wishy-washy in everything. But certainly people like Valerie Jarrett and David Axelrod and everything. They all want to see the United States destroyed because it is this hegemon. It's this beast. It's preventing us from all living in one world order harmony where everyone just thinks the same and looks the same and talks the same. Okay, these people, particularly the people behind Obama, his entire cabinet and so on, they hate that because they legitimately think, because they were programmed in all these expensive private schools and colleges that they went to, that if it weren't for just the unwashed masses of the United States, we would all be living in this perfect utopian harmony worldwide. It's those terrible Americans that are stopping, that are preventing us from living in paradise. Okay. Now, again, that's stupid. That's a stupid thing to think, but that is literally how they think. How do I know that? Because that's what they say. That's what they all say. If you don't believe me, just go and read their own words. They all believe that. And it's gotten worse than ever. But it used to be that there was some context for it. There was a culture, a shared culture that people were sort of struggling to define and to control. There isn't that anymore. Everything is just microculture. Everything is internet cults and so on and so forth. So the people will swallow this stuff, but they don't realize that they're chasing phantoms. That the world that they're trying to fight against doesn't even exist anymore. It's when I see people still talking about how subversive, I'm subversive and I'm rebellious. And it's like, well, what are you subverting? What are you rebelling against? The entire power structure is still very much in the grips of people who share your exact same ideology. So what exactly are you resisting? What are you fighting against?
They're raging against the machine, Chris.
Well, they're raging against, like I said, they're raging against the car that takes us, or the bus or the van or whatever you want to call it, that takes us down the road of life. They've undermined everything, every single solitary thing that could be undermined. They've undermined, and they don't even know why. All they believe is that there is some paradise at the other end of it. And like I said, the infantilization and then the the sorcery is all reinforcing that. And again, don't ever underestimate how ritual and sorcery is a central part of this. Okay. And like I said, what I've seen, what I've been tracking for many, 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 many years now is how the tools of ancient sorcery and ancient cults of state were magically revived sometime in the late 2000s and have been with us ever since. I mean, they failed, and they will always fail, but they have done tremendous damage, nonetheless.
Well, let me ask you about this, because you're talking about sorcery, talking about things that are, I think once you've seen things, once you are not of the counted among the walking dead, you are a little bit more, at least yourself, through, self-edification, a little bit more initiated into seeing, what's being thrown out there. For example, like you said before, watching an Olympics opening ceremony in China so many years ago, when there's literally a bunch of virus balls dancing around with each other, and you say, everyone's going to say, what, I'm going to write that one down for, see what happens with that. So there is casting the line. There are things that are done in your face, other things that are a little bit more in the dialogue, in between the lines there. But then there's also subtle omissions that I want to ask you about here, and I want to play you something. There's a few instances recently where people were recording these little changes that I don't know how detectable they would be for people, even if they are like the diehard fans of a show, that are being made to classic television shows once they make their way to streaming services. And here's an example of, I'm going to play this. We're going to get you up on screen with me. This is from The Cosby Show, where you'll see the omission. You'll hear it. Take a listen to this.
It's out.
This is not a play. This is real life, and you can get out. Christine, call me if you need me. Or my cane.
Please get the money.
Couldn't even sneak off somewhere.
Justina wasn't what it looked like.
There it goes.
We were rehearsing Joan of Arc.
I don't remember Joan of Arc kissing
They split
anybody.
up.
You show me in here where Joan of Arc kisses somebody, then we have no problem.
Listen to this. Why did they change that? What you're looking at is The Cosby Show. In the original version, you see they're talking about Joan of Arc.
So he goes on. That is from Timelines 57, and of course, the comments are awash with talks about timeline changes in Mandela, but that's not Mandela effect. That it actually,
it's digital manipulation.
Exactly, and it goes to show where how a lot of Mandela effect might just be the result of digital manipulation here. But I mean, just the mention of Joan of Arc in a random episode of The Cosby Show. I mean, this is where we're talking about such a subtle omission. And what did that achieve, aside from, of course, removing a very prestigious religious figure, a woman of great, courageous amounts of faith? I mean, there's the obvious there, but little things like that, Chris, how do you interpret things like that?
Well, I mean, first of all, this has been going on for a while. Okay. One of the earliest, I guess, emanations of this is when streaming, they would change the background songs because they didn't want to pay the royalties. Say it was, I don't know, a song by Madonna or something, and they'd have it in the background in a TV show, and then they would change it. I mean, that was like 20 years ago, at least, that they were doing that with DVDs and streaming and so on. I was just reading that Michael Mann is working on a new restored edition of Manhunter, and he's said, "Oh, there's some problematic dialogue that I'm going to be changing." So that's really what it is. I mean, somebody in some position of influence is saying, "Change this. We don't like this." They give them notes. I mean, take this out, and they can do it all very easily digitally now. I mean, you could probably do it on your computer now. I mean, it's not hard to do, and now we have AI, so we can do that as well. So I think what happens is somebody found a discussion of Joan of Arc to be problem. I mean, maybe it was somebody who was offended. I mean, maybe it was a Catholic who was offended. I mean, that's not very likely in the grand scheme of things, but it's also not out of the question. What with television shows, even shows that were filmed on stage, like the Cosby Show, they would do so many different takes that they have in the vaults. They have all, many different variations that if they decide they need to switch something out, they can do that. With Cosby, I mean, I don't know if you remember this, you're probably a little too young, but he had basically bought out the rights to all these cartoons from the 30s and 40s that had, very exaggerated images of blacks, very racially charged images of black people and so on. And he had them taken off the market. So, I mean, maybe it's Cosby. I don't know. But this is something, when everything is digitalized, everything is streaming, it's just so easy to just go in and change things on a fundamental level. And people just won't even notice. Most people won't even notice, or they won't care. Oh, yeah, okay, they changed that. They took Joan of Arc out, whatever. I don't care.
Yeah.
It's deliberate, it's systematic, it's everywhere, and it's going to get worse. So buy physical media.
I was gonna bring that up there before, because first of all, I think if streaming companies can alter old television shows, then I think they should be required to disclose the changes. I noticed that with The Office on Amazon, when they took The Office off of Netflix. I went out and I got all the seasons on Amazon many years ago, but with The Office, I realized that they were actually adding things. Like there was parts of scenes I had never seen before. So I didn't see anything going away, though. I know now that, I mean, most of the people on that cast would probably not sign on to do half of the episodes that they did back in 2005. It was just too funny, first of all. But how many things
can't have funny?
No, we can't have that.
Allowed.
No, can't have that. I mean, so it is actually a form of cultural memory loss, and I don't know if there's going to be any real accurate way to quantify it over the next 25 years. But before I ask you this next question about a very specific type of media that has found tremendous success in the movie theaters recently, if you could preserve one piece of media physically forever, what would it be?
Oh no, man! I don't think in those terms.
Well, maybe you need a couple of days to whittle it all down. I just figured I'd throw it at you.
I would maybe I would preserve a movie like Network or They Live.
Okay.
So they couldn't subvert it. People would get the original intention and the original dialogue and the original scenes and so on. I mean, there's that great scene with Ned Beatty that everybody needs to see in the movie Network, which is 50 years old now, which is terrifying. But I mean, I remember when that movie came out. But that's probably what I would choose. Something that told uncomfortable truths to the audience that the totalitarians among us would very much like to see removed, see erased. We're talking about cultural erasure here, really. And that's what I think I would go for.
You're talking about that scene where when Ned Beatty's in the pretty much the empty boardroom where it's just him and Peter Finch. Yeah. That's an incredible scene. It really is. Man. I got to add that to my film club, actually. We have to watch that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that whole movie is... can you imagine a movie like that being made today? I can't.
Well, first of all, it would get panned by critics, which would mean I have to go see it. That would be great. That's how you always know a movie's going to be worth it, which is why I knew Disclosure Day was probably going to be terrible. And
oh my God. Yeah.
Talking about flat tire.
Oh yeah. Gosh. So I had gone to see Disclosure Day, and after we got out, I realized that I hadn't been to the movies since I saw Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So what's that?
Wow.
years ago.
Yeah, about
Yeah, I mean, even then I mean, 10 years ago, I was like, I don't think I can go to the movies anymore. And a lot of it is the cost, but a lot of it is like the quality is just so deteriorated. And just the experience just isn't magical anymore. And in many ways, I've said many a time that I think that CGI really hurt movies. And I think that AI is going to make it AI is going to destroy the cinemas. You know, cinema is going to be like opera or rodeos or something or vaudeville. It's going to or burlesque. It's going to just be an experience that a small, dedicated group of enthusiasts partake in. People are going to watch. I mean, it's already begun and it's already started. Um, but they have nobody to blame for it themselves. And I had said I'd done a review, a video review of Disclosure Day, and I will tell you that all the effects very, very, very much look to me like AI. You know, just the color palette and the rendering and the textures.
now the rendering of the animals were the cartoons. It was a cartoon. I looked like I was. It almost. It wasn't as bad as like Mary Poppins dancing with the penguins, but it was close.
It was bad. It really took you out of the story. But I think that was a cost cutting measure. I can't imagine for the life of me, where that $115 million went for that picture. I had done a rewatch of Taken, which was a 10 episode miniseries on Sci-Fi back in 2002. And I was reading that the budget was like $40 million, and it was 15 hours of television, and a lot more special effects and a lot better special effects, quite frankly. I mean, from 25 years ago, the special effects are better than a movie that you see today. I mean, people have been complaining about that. I mean, I think they've been using AI. I think Marvel's been using AI without admitting to it, without talking about it. So I think that it's going to just kill the experience. And that's another third space, what they call the third space, where people could sort of get together and go to the movies. And say you're in an office environment with people that you have nothing in common with, and you could talk about, oh, hey, did you see Disclosure Day? If it wasn't a terrible movie like it is. Maybe sports are going to fill that void, with the World Cup and so on. And I know there's been a big resurgence of interest in baseball, but I think that without those third spaces, it's very, very difficult to maintain an organic and cohesive culture. Now, the people behind wokeness and all the rest of it, did they intend to destroy those third spaces? That's debatable. Maybe some did, maybe some didn't. I think, again, it's this powerful delusion, this program delusion, that if everything old is just torn apart and replaced with this very de facto and hastily constructed new, that we'll all be living in paradise in short order. I mean, I honestly think that a lot of people think that way. I think a lot of other people who are also working for these same companies and so on are very malicious. I mean, I think that a lot of them, I think, are possessed.
Yeah.
A lot of them, or to one extent or another. I mean, it doesn't have to be like full on Regan in The Exorcist, right? It could just be, what they used to call a demonic obsession.
Well, you said it before. You said, listen, there you cannot discount that people are stupid, and these and these things are these ways of thinking, the worldview that people adopt in and of itself actually limit. Once you take that on, once you kneel before the emperor and you say, I dedicate myself to your teachings, you limit yourself to that worldview. So that it'll actually retard you. I mean, you are at that point, like you say, well, do they really mean to destroy these things once they come into possession of a certain intellectual property like Star Wars or whatever? And it's just like giving a very delicate porcelain doll to a disabled kid who is just I don't know, just out of fucking control. I mean, they are disabled.
Yeah,
They're
the hockey helmet crowd.
Seriously, they're disabled in a very, very clinical way, and they just see something that can crunch when you squeeze it, and somebody else will react to the crunching sound. When you see a Fabergé egg get destroyed for no reason, we knew why it was beautiful. They think we're stupid for thinking the Fabergé egg was beautiful. I mean, it's really just I can't get that much deeper with it.
Well, again, I mean, it's this need to recreate their incredibly privileged, hyper-privileged childhoods, where they didn't have to worry about anything and everything was taken care of by their rich parents. I think there are also a lot of kids who've gotten screwed. And the thing I keep trying to tell people is that what has screwed the younger generations is the whole open borders experiment, because it makes jobs harder to find. It makes insurance more expensive. It makes real estate more expensive. It makes rents more expensive. I mean, everything is just put under pressure. And you can't, I mean, we've stolen the future of our younger generations at the altar of international delusion and cheap labor. But it's interesting because before a couple of years ago, I remember watching somebody was interviewing Adam Curtis, who did the documentary Hypernormalization. And what he was saying, and it really panned out with what we've seen going on in the UK, is that nobody knows what to do. Nobody knows how to fix things. I mean, their population is twice as large as it was 40 years ago, say. Most of the population growth is very low skilled immigrants who most of whom are on some sort of public assistance. So they had this whole idea that they could just import a new workforce, but they didn't realize that their delusional kumbaya, like to buy a world of Coke, delusion mentality prevented them from seeing how it was really going to play out. So I think people like Keir Starmer is evil and stupid and weak. I mean, everybody agrees with that. Nope, that is not, with any constituency, that is not a controversial statement. But he also was emblematic of that same type of delusion, that because they grew up in bubbles, because they grew up rich and sheltered and brainwashed, they just don't know how the world works. And they're very angry and frustrated because the world doesn't work like, their Marxist professors told them that it inevitably would, once they put into place all these policies that they have put into place. Why aren't things getting better? I'll give you, there's a story. Let me just tell you a story from when I was a kid. I remember I was a big beach bum, and I was always outside, but I was always like in the woods, building forts and doing stuff like that. And I had gotten what I thought was poison ivy. So I'm like, oh, I know what I'll do. I'll just, go to the beach and sort of bake it off and go in the salt water, and that will dry it out. So I'll just, this is really bad poison ivy, but I'll take care of it. It wasn't poison ivy, it was sun poisoning. My plan for fixing this problem was actually making it much, much worse.
Damn, yeah.
And that to me is like, that is my go-to allegory.
It's a great story. I totally.
So I think that, but they don't know any better. They're very frustrated because they aren't really that smart. Okay. I mean, they might have been programmed to memorize a lot of information and sort of spit it back out, but they don't have true intelligence, which is the ability to process information and to deal with complex issues that there isn't some formula for, that you have to improvise, you have to figure things out on the fly. I don't think any of those people can do that. And they were so smitten by these delusional fantasies that had been passed down to them from the days of, the Cambridge Five, even, right? They just don't know any better. And they don't know what to do because everything they've tried has made everything worse. I mean, particularly in the UK, but I think, across Europe as well. All the green stuff and deindustrialization and all these kind of things. Was that just some sort of vicious spellcraft on the part of China or something? Hey, Germany, you don't want to make stuff. That's bad. You don't want cheap gas. It's bad. So they basically got high in their own supply, and they fell for what are really just a bunch of cons. A bunch of fantasies and delusions, and
You want to
in
see?
many ways, dirty tricks.
You want to see one here? Because I know I don't want to take up too much more of your time. This has been fantastic, but here's one of those delusions I got to show you. This is the New York Times. This was yesterday on Father's Day. They published, I guess, an op-ed written by it has to be a biological woman. Only a woman would talk like this. To my daughter, my gender was never complicated, and it essentially is about a parent, a father who had transitioned into being a father. It included all this soulless cartoon. Even the cartoons are absolutely soulless over here. How long did you have breasts for, Dad? And then as they're walking on the street, then a playground scene right next door. Somebody says, "You can't grow a beard, you're a girl." And then the girl who has the father who was born a woman says, "My dad did, and he was a girl." Let me just say, we can talk about trauma that a child can be inflicted on a child or anything else like that. A Hollywood kid. I know that you were talking about Davy Chase and how another child of Hollywood ended up in a horrible situation, and we can talk about those hyper specific examples. But right here, the trauma that is generally applied to especially our children who grow up pretty quick and all of a sudden have a vote and are running for office, and they turn into Mamdani really quickly. Even the cartoons are soulless here. And sometimes I get mixed up, Chris, and I'm an adult, and sometimes I get mixed up with these cartoons and trying to say, okay, wait, whose father is what, who's born as what? I don't know what the language that they use and the reality it reflects is so fractured and crazy that I can't imagine how hard it is for a first grader to process the shit that is thrown at them from these nut jobs. And how functional of a person are you by the time you reach 16? This is why, kids that come from predominantly liberal households are dealing with so much more anxiety than everybody else, because you want to talk about having your programming being limited to be able to apply knowledge you have in a complex situation and finding a solution. You can't find the problem when you're raised on this shit. This is how you disable people quickly.
Well, a lot of people are just sort of writing themselves out of the book of life.
Yeah.
Just, not to put too fine a point on it. And listen, it happens, maybe there's some weird subconscious signal, like your genes are just not going to make it in the next 50 years. You're just not cut out for it. You're not cut out for the world that's coming. I don't know. But this is all clearly social contagion that's being fed by just pathetic, cultic organs like the New York Times. It is just cult propaganda. And that's, I've talked a lot about how back in the Roman times, you had, very much the same thing, eunuch cults and, even, the Amazons and so on. So there was always this impulse to escape from biology, escape from reality. And Camille Paglia, I don't know how many people out there are familiar with her, but she had talked about, that it always arises during times of social collapse. In this case, imperial collapse. I mean, the empire of the New World Order is falling. Okay. I mean, I honestly believe that they expected that COVID was going to kill a lot more people, and they expected that the injections were going to kill a lot more people than they had. And this ties into something that I've been talking about for a very long time now. The fact that scientists are basically become a bunch of liars. The replication crisis, where experiments can't be, recreated. And I think that there's been this need, because of science fiction and programming, to believe that science is magic. All they have to do is wave their magic science wands and, create the perfect pathogen that will kill off enough of the world's population that they can build this glorious paradise New World Order. And it didn't, because the scientists were lying to them. Okay. I mean, the scientists were lying to them all, because that's what most scientists unfortunately do now. And I don't want to say all scientists, but when you're seeing statistics like 70% of most scientific papers cannot be replicated, that means that most scientists are lying, and they have been lying. And people have been talking about it and warning people. And unfortunately, people like Bill Gates and Klaus Schwab and Boris Johnson and Macron and all the rest of them and Fauci, they didn't understand the reality that we've reached a point where science is basically over. That all the important science has been done, because we've had millions of people working in laboratories for the past 120 years. At some point, you hit the wall. And we hit it. And to keep the grant money flowing, about 10 or 15 years ago, scientists just started lying, egregiously lying. Nature magazine had said that 50% of most science being done was fraud. And I think it's probably much worse than that now, particularly when people are just using AI to write papers and everything.
Oh yeah,
So,
the papers themselves.
Yeah, oh yeah.
I think it was was Brookstone. I forget what the hell it was. I'll figure that out. We were talking about that too. The level of inaccuracies, both just sloppy. It's incredible that's in all of these accredited papers that are being used to get grants, and are also are finding their way into classrooms on the college level.
Yeah. It's sad. There's been this belief that the liberal arts, as they're known in colleges, were just going to fade away, and that everything would become STEM. Well, we are seeing liberal arts in programs and liberal arts colleges closing and fading away. I mean, that has happened. But I honestly believe that we're going to see the same thing with STEM. And the reason being is that we hit the wall. We reached the limits. Okay. And people get very upset, people who still believe in these fairy tales, really, that science can do anything and technology is magic. And, again, all you have to do is wave your magical STEM wand and make anything happen. That's just not how science works. It's a very ugly and drawn out and difficult and frustrating process when it's done correctly. When it isn't done correctly, you just have an AI write your paper. So, but again, these are all the things. I mean, we grew up in a world that was still at the tail end of this whole delusion coming from the Industrial Revolution, coming from the scientific revolution, that we'll be all living on Mars and dome cities and traveling to other star systems and driving hovercrafts and little personalized helicopters and all the rest of it. We all grew up hearing these stories. We all grew up with this worldview. Even if you didn't subscribe to it, it surrounded you. It was on every television program and every book, every textbook, every newspaper, every film you went to go see. This whole idea that it's just a rabbit you can pull out of the hat whenever needed. And I think, to be honest with you, I think that's also feeding this cultic, nervous, I don't even want to call it a nervous breakdown. I think it's much more serious than that. It's much more dangerous than that. I would call it a sort of a cultic meltdown. Okay. And we're going to see the doubling down. We're going to see states and countries that refuse to let go of the old pipe dreams, literal pipe dreams that were came to us from elite smoking rooms in Victorian London. We're going to just be basically seeing that all fall apart completely. And it's going to get ugly. And I really do fear the other end of it. People will become so horrified and sickened by what the delusional class, let's call them, tries to pull off to preserve their power, to preserve their illusions, that people are just going to go in the other extreme towards technocratic fascism.
Well,
complete surveillance societies. So I do want to be, I do want to be hopeful, and I do want to believe in human nature, but people today are not the same as they used to be, Frank. I don't know if you've noticed.
I have.
Sometimes I feel like there's, never mind the immigration and everything. It's just like, even just like basic people, sometimes I feel like I'm looking at a different species, particularly with a lot of young people.
It could feel that way. It really could. Then there is also just being able to the looking glass technology that we have to be able to make those assessments. They really do. You really have to consider how you are being fed things online based on what your interests are.
It's the algorithms, yes, the algorithms.
As soon when you're outside, those are the best observations to make. How are you? It's almost like a lot of these Europeans that are coming into places like Georgia and Florida and up in New Jersey or in Seattle or wherever the hell else there are, and we're here all the time. We're being fed the shit. It's just being shoveled right into our faces by the media one day after another, because they're trying to suit one purpose or another, even if the purpose is just getting people to just disown each other spiritually. But I think that once you just get out there and you keep your eyes open, there's a lot more to be hopeful about, and that is, of course, if systems stay afloat. So that's why I say the biggest reason why anybody would want to decentralize any kind of a system, whether it's monetary or food or anything else, is that if all of that machine that has all those redundancies in it that you were saying before really breaks down and everybody's on their own for a couple of weeks, it's not life or death, I have to eat my neighbor kind of a thing. You are, and that's just, I think that's the thing that makes me fear, a little bit more fearful than other things. It's just that we're way too connected to each other, and we're not. And that's the problem with everything.
Way too centralized. I mean, I think that anybody watching this or listening to this, if you're not out of a city now, at least a major city, get out of it. I mean, the cities are going to be the flashpoint. They're going to be the flashpoint for and again, I mean, this has already started. It's already happening. So getting away from the cities, getting away from those influences is what I would recommend to people, and just also getting back into, more natural environments. I think that being disconnected from nature instills a lot of these delusions.
Yeah.
When you're in the natural world and you're observing the natural world and you're experiencing the natural world, it's hard to cling to a lot of these fantasies, these childish fantasies that are being sold as policy, quite frankly. So.
Well, Chris, what do you got coming up? I know you are working on a video. I can't wait to see that. Obviously, you have a lot of published work out there. You're very, very active. You're one of my favorite Twitter accounts to follow because I know that you're always going to drop a couple of really good cutting lines all throughout the week on one thing or another. So,
my snark.
Yeah. Hey, listen, we need it. Where do you want people to follow you, and what do you have coming up that you want to preview?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that I'm working on now. I've just got a couple new domain names because I've been, like my Substack is thesecretsunsubstack.com, and I've got a much shorter and easier to remember domain name for that I need to set up. And I've also, for my Patreon, I've got a new domain name for that. So the Patreon is going to be secretsunschool.com, and the Substack will be secretsun.blog. And there's still secretsun.blogspot.com. That's still going strong after more than 20 years. So I'm out there. I'm easy to find. So
okay.
Even with all this AI search, which just starting to drive me crazy. Even Brave, Brave search was supposed to be the alternative to Google, and even they front load their AI searches now, which wouldn't be as irritating if they were more reliable.
Yeah,
they weren't so filled with hallucinations. So
everything, yeah. You again talking about redundancy. I like using certain so-called AI search engines just to be able to find other articles. You don't. I mean, you definitely do not want them aggregating information for you, those companies, because I mean, we've seen the intentional deception and all that other shit. So I like if you can use Grok or something else to find you a collection of 5 links that can bring you elsewhere to actual articles. That I found that to be a lot more useful than actually interfacing with Brave or Google or any other traditional browser, because for a long time those browsers buried anything worth watching on page like 275. You have to go past 78 browser pages worth of CNBC articles on anything interesting before you get the first.
Well, they haven't been doing that for years. I mean, I have yet to do a Google search that's given me more than 5 pages of results. And usually by the time you get to the 3rd page, it's like they give you that little message about, that's it. Sorry. Do you want to see more? Tough luck.
So then, again, dead internet theory. Maybe we can talk about that next time you come on. That.
Oh, yeah. I've been talking about that quite a bit over the years. So.
Yeah. That and liminal spaces. I wanted to bring that up with you again tonight too, but we don't have enough time for that. That's a big one, the liminal spaces thing. You want to talk about the difference between Disclosure Day, the movie that really went nowhere, versus who they were up against in right now that's still out in the theaters. That movie, the Backrooms, based on all those short film liminal space kind of horror films on the internet. And liminal spaces, that's come up on this show a lot, about those little in-between worlds that are alien feeling, but also hauntingly familiar, like those kind of like empty shopping malls. I
love the liminal spaces, man. That's my home.
So that's what I'm talking about. That's where I want to jump into to more stuff like that with you there too, because
Sure.
I think that's something
definitely.
that people can't really. They can't tell you why, but at the same time, they feel like this is a place that they have been before. Like all those plastic covered couches in the early 1990s at our grandparents' houses, that's become liminal spaces for a lot of people, where they feel almost like an aching tug toward something familiar that maybe they never experienced, or they did, but for a brief period of time. I don't know. I think that everything that you're describing right now, as far as where our culture is kind of like dry rotting and giving.
No, it's fast. It's not even dry rotting anymore. It's wet rotting.
See, oh yeah, that's what
our culture is like wet toilet paper rotting.
It's giving way, and as that's going on, I feel like that this is in a very inarticulate way. Most people just like, oh, I feel like I'm at home here. I feel like there's a little bit more of a peace there than it is over, and it's strange because it's like being in a haunted house, a liminal space, that in and of itself. So, we do have the tools. You know, I mean, outside, well, you know, it's a strange thing because we have the ability to curate what we consume. Okay. The problem is that, you know, you talked about the algorithm and so on. It's all engineered to exploit your FOMO, right? Your sense of FOMO. Yep.
But we can create microcultures. We can create through curation where we only consume the things that we want to, that we only have the sources of information or entertainment that we want to. You just need to get past all the tricks and all the stunts that the social media giants and the algorithms use to pull you back out of that, you know, to pull you back into their world and their mindset. And believe me, this is science. They've got it down to a science. But we can, you know, you talked about Pizza Hut and so on. I mean, there will be new third spaces, okay? And they won't be open to the general public, so to speak. They're going to be a little bit more selective, but they will exist. Technology it's so much the driver of social change. And it frustrates me that people who are very, very intelligent and very skeptical of the New World Order and all the rest of these ridiculous fantasies, they still don't understand the power that technology has to define, you know, who we talk to, who we see, you know, what we read and all the rest of it. You know, we can't shut that out anymore. Back when I was a kid, you know, people would read one of the newspapers, you know, whether they were more conservative or more liberal, but they still had a sense of what other people thought. Okay. They weren't inside these cultic bubbles and so on. But the technology has allowed that. But the flip side of that, as I said, is that people like you and I and people who think like us and see the world as we do, we can construct alternatives. We can construct our own liminal spaces as an antidote and as a counterbalance to the very toxic and ugly and sick and weird and stupid cultures that very rich people want us to buy into. And unfortunately, too many people do, and which is why they're all having spiritual breakdowns.
Yeah,
basically.
And there you have it. A little bit more. So I'm gonna save my bullets on this one then, because this is gonna be a nice topic for some time later on in the summer. Chris, I hope that you have a really awesome 4th of July, and don't
forget my 60th birthday too. So.
Oh, is it on the 4th?
No, it's before the 4th, but coming up fast and furious.
Hey, happy birthday to you, my friend. I'll be on the lookout for whenever the hell it is, and I'll give you a big shout out on the show before then. And
thank you.
Yeah. Well, thanks for all the time. I've got your links in the description of the episode. I hope you get a few more people following you on Twitter and a few more people putting your books on their shelves. And I don't know, the hour and a half flew by like nothing. So thank you for everything.
Thank you, Frank.
All right. Christopher Knowles, everybody. Go check him out. The Secret Son. And you know what? We're not going to go on intermission because what the hell's the point? What the hell's the point? Let's just keep rolling with this. I have a few other things here real quick to show you. Here we have, well, first of all, more from those Europeans. The European tourists that are single-handedly throwing a wrench into the gears of 50 years of self-loathing American propaganda. Take a listen to this.
We owe America a huge apology because America is nothing like what the media tells us. Everyone is so friendly, everyone is so accommodating, and I've honestly had the best time. I fly home Sunday and the English have a song where we say, please don't take me home, I just don't want to go to work. Let me stay here and drink all your beer. And I've never resonated with that song more than in America for this World Cup. I wish I could stay and finish the tournament watching England. So if anyone is out there that can help me make this happen, then please let me know. I want nothing more than to stay in the USA, finish the World Cup, and meet more fantastic Americans.
Yeah, well, you know what? Nobody has been. There's so many of them. It's great to see. It's a break from all the other bullshit. You can't escape the bullshit. Okay, you're not getting led around by some poison pill sports ball stuff. By taking a moment to actually to see that there are good people out there who have had an experience that counters everything they've been taught about our country. Because, man, no one's been lied to more about America than Americans. And still, we are able to have those incredible human experiences out there. Here's a couple of comments just from this one upload alone. SC Brucci to like 50,000 likes. Our media hates us too. No apologies necessary. You have to stay for the 4th of July. This is only the pregame. We want to hate us. If you want to hate us, watch the news. If you want to love us, come here for a visit. The media exists to make us all hate each other. I think I really do think that most people are getting this. I do think most people are getting this. There's an element of chaos in the streets, in the lower rung. There really is something to that lower, dirt poor, infantilized, detached, no family, no nothing, absolutely aimless kind of a contingent in society that has become a sort of buffer. Now, there's another layer of the buffer. It's not just the rich and their super poor minions out there who will do anything that the rich point the laser pointer on there. Here, you put the laser pointer on this building, they go and burn it. They go and attack these people, whatever the hell it is. They just point the laser pointer on it. The laser pointer, the Eye of Sauron, that is the news media. They tell you what to get to be mad at, and boom, really, you have a nice little buffer there because you're not actually paying anybody. They don't even know that they're doing it. They think that they're in control of themselves. The mentally ill that should be in locked up these days. But then there's another layer in between them. There needs to be a management layer on the plantation that is still in the social sphere, and those are the midwits. Those are the midwits, and that is what happens. Here's an example. I grabbed this while Chris was talking about the different levels of indoctrination and things like that. Here's a woman. Her name is Kendall in Kentucky, and she asked on Instagram, "How is your library?" And take a look at some of the stuff that she picks out in the middle of this children's library. I think it might be in a school. I don't know, but it's the little things here.
Explore the kids section.
Kamala Harris. There's no reason why that should still be there.
Why by Tay Diggs, which is about this kid who's asking, Mom, why are people crying? Oh, because our people are hurt. And then, Nana, why are those people pointing? Because we need help. Grandpa, why are people marching? Because we've been stomped on and stepped on. And then finally, they've just had enough, and the kids look out the window and they see their brown skin staring back at the reflections. They saw a bright light and the fire through the window and could smell smoke, dark smoke. And then what happens? The kids say, why are those buildings burning? And the parents justify it, and they say, when we get tired of shouting and not being heard, when we've cried so many tears and always get hurt, when we scream out for help and continue to get ignored, when we march and march and march but are really not moving, when all that happens, sometimes buildings must burn. Buildings burn for us. The anger burning those buildings is us. So again, a book that's not appropriate for children, teaching them to write it. Anti-Racist Baby, which is a board book. I'll put this somewhere else in the adult section. Okay, let's go.
I mean, the kids' books are, there you go. Point and click, burn that building down. Nobody's listening to me. Nobody's giving me money. Nobody's giving me money. Because of course, why you deserve that was taught to you as well. It's insane. And here's something else. I was talking to Chris about how you have these people that sometimes, that I used to like getting into intellectual discussions, just some kind of a shallow level intellectual discussion. But hey, what's going on in the world? How are you seeing things? Being able to find points where you agree on stuff, because ultimately, not too long ago, you had to imagine, you had to assume that everybody wanted the best for humanity. And everybody was frustrated because they wanted good things to happen for people, but nobody was doing it their way. And that's something you can work with, because if everybody is under the assumption that everybody wants good for everybody, the only problem is that the prescriptions one group or one special interest has over another is different, then maybe if we can concentrate on what everybody likes, which is good things happening for people, we can find a way to introduce different ideas to people who didn't hear them before. I would be on the side of, no, we don't need more of these things that are ruining our lives and bringing us together and instilling in resentment into people, so that people are born into permanent castes of certain types of voting behaviors based on nothing but skin color or perceived sexual orientation or whatever the fuck else. And let's just talk about stripping that all away and being able to go out there and ply our trade with minimal interventions, minimal red tape, minimal hurdles from the central authority that only wants us to hate each other, so that it can say, hey, I'll be the regulator of all things. You guys can't seem to get along, even though they're the ones making us hate each other and teaching kids all this fucking nonsense. And it's just insane. And speaking of the money there too, I can get into some more normie stuff on the flip side. But this has to be said about the USAID thing. All right. USAID in 2025, that was one of the first things to really start grabbing a lot of attention when the Doge team was going off to the races. And over the last couple of days, people have been calling attention to how this cannot be coincidence, that the political makeup throughout the entire continent of South America and parts of Central America is shifting to the right. And when I say right, all I'm talking about is moderate shift away from absolute socialist despotism and some sort of a wanting to have any kind of security and crime to be dealt with, anything like that. It's really that simple. But I have to show you a little bit of this. This is from End Wokeness and Mike Benz, but I want to also give you some numbers behind it. This is what I saw Anna Paulina Luna putting stuff out there about this too. Like, imagine that. 7 Latin American elections since USAID was defunded in 2025. Chile goes far right cast. Paz in Bolivia, far right. Peru, so supposedly far right. This is probably all like ADL, ACLU types of descriptors, but still. Fujimori in Peru, Noboa in Ecuador, all right-leaning. Honduras, Colombia, Costa Rica. I mean, it's just one of those things. So the USAID noticing has begun now that we have been able to live about a year with that stuff being severely squeezed off. And a lot of it has. That was a big thing. It's not like the money isn't being spent in some ways, but the people who are in charge of dispersing it, I mean, I want it all gone. It has to go. But still, people are connecting the dots between something like USAID being squeezed and the inability for left-wing governments to maintain their coalitions in South America, especially. So the billing is that the far right is taking over, but in actuality, it's just moderate coalitions who care about public safety. And I just wanted to go in there and just do a little bit more. Like, here's Anna Paulina Luna. Grab this here. So as opposed to how we see red and blue election maps over there, right wing is blue, is being depicted as blue down there. And in 2023 over here on the left, it is a whole lot of left wing. And then on the right, you're just seeing a lot. And who knows what the hell is going on in Brazil, because we had all that Bolsonaro stuff going on. And you really wonder. You really wonder, you know? So I went back into it. I just wanted to make sure I got all this right. And NPR, this first one I found, most of USAID's funding and programs, around 80 to 92%, were effectively halted or terminated in 2025 out of an agency that managed roughly $40 to $60 billion annually pre-2025. So 80 to 92%. Now the keys here's from BBC, initial freeze, but the terminations in February and March of last year. After review, the administration, via Secretary of State Marco Rubio, terminated 83 to 92% of USAID programs and contracts. This included 5,200 to 5,800 awards, with claim savings of 54 to $60 billion. And it was largely dismantled, and the remnants were absorbed by the State Department by middle of last year. So the remaining funding of about $120 billion in active contracts at the start of 2025, $69 billion in programming reportedly remained, covering select humanitarian, health, economic, and initiatives. Some humanitarian aid continued at reduced levels. Let me see here. The administration requested $9.4 billion in rescissions, with 8 to 8.3 targeting foreign aid accounts additional. So, I mean, we're talking about tens of billions of dollars that stopped being made available. And in one fell swoop, you have half of a continent that is suddenly expressing far right leanings. Now, who knows what happens in the next cycle? And perhaps it is all coincidence, but you can't imagine. You can't imagine, because this is not about what's going on in the United States. I mean, the United States is being dismantled by these Fabian types, by the Keir Starmer types, who are absolutely out of their minds, and they have comfy little homes, comfy little summer homes and all that stuff. They are in safe neighborhoods. They don't give a shit about what they do. They exist to melt their countries into an international coalition of once nation states that are now just voting districts. That's what they want to do. So it makes perfect sense that while the United States is being, tended to from the inside on a cultural level, that so many hundreds of billions of dollars are just being stolen from us, charged on the card, we're the collateral for, stolen from us to influence policies and politics and just general malaise down in Central and South America, which of course is a big reason why they are actually forcing migration up into the U.S., forcing it. And there's a lot more to be said about that there too. But then of course that's the Western Hemisphere. How the Eastern Hemisphere is being run is something else. You just have crazy. It's just crazy. That's what the bureaucrats do. The everyday, zombie cult member out there is, jumping into the reflecting pool over there in Washington, D.C. and trying to pee in it so the algae grows. That's what people are doing. There's this one woman I saw get arrested down at the reflecting pool by the Washington Monument, who she put an eyedropper of something into the water. Like, this was like the day after that Donald Trump said that if you're caught doing anything to this pool to contaminate it, to try to get it to turn green, to try to get algae or anything else to grow and just screw up what they have done to clean it. And just to look, there's this woman that shows up and she got pulled aside by, I don't know, some kind of a park ranger down there after she was like eye dropping something in there. Who knows what she thought she was going to be able to do. And I was the one that turned it green the next morning. And she got arrested. And this was like a day after President Trump said that anybody caught touching this thing or vandalizing anything in Washington, D.C. is going to get 10 years. Now, is she going to get 10 years? I don't know. But there's no impulse control. These aren't real people. That's why I'm saying I'm not prepared to talk to people about anything anymore. You guys show up to a block party or to a jamboree, we'll talk, we'll shoot the shit, we'll have some fun, whatever. Something geopolitical pops up, we'll be able to, mix it up a little bit. But I'm not evangelizing. I'm not gonna go out there and evangelize and talk to people on the streets. See the condition people are in. You got to find a way to actually assess. You got to put somebody through the metal detector, the crazy detector. They got to walk through the crazy detector first. And if none of the bells go off, then perhaps you can find a way to ask them questions and see where they are on things. I have a couple of friends like that. Who I know are not Trump guys, that aren't also very conservative, but on the same, I guess that they would be a little bit more, dare I say, libertarian, where, get your hands out of my pockets, but other than that, I don't care what you do, and I tend to be a little bit more center left about things and whatever. You can talk to those people, and that's what a lot of people used to be. And then all of a sudden, everybody's been given one cross or another, and it's just been hell. It's just been hell, man. But we find time to laugh at it all. And that's the big question of tonight. The big question of tonight is, is the truth is hard to edit. How hard to edit is it? I think it's pretty hard. I think it's a pretty damn hard thing to do, which is why at this point, nobody's really sleepily accepting their place anymore. And it's just getting a little bit more, just a little bit more tense, because you can see what's going on now. Now, I don't know if everything's going to be as subtle as the Cosby Show having a little bit of a reference to Joan of Arc being taken out of there, but still, that's where we're at. That is where we're at. I think we're all basically on the same page here, or at least in the same book when it comes to our living inside one of those interactive stage plays. People enjoy the show. It's all a show. It's all a play. Yeah. I mean, it's really like Tony and Tina's wedding. You're in the theater. You're going out for a night of theater. You walk into the theater. The actors are everywhere, but they're in character. They got their tuxedos on. They're ready to go to the wedding, whatever. They're in the bathrooms, fixing their hair, talking shit about the bride's side or the groom's side. One of those interactive plays where you're not just going, you're not just going to buy the ticket and sit there and you get the first act, the second act, and an intermission. You go get yourself a Manhattan. But you're actually you're in the powder room and there's an ex-lover of one of the soon-to-be wedded bride or groom, whatever. There's ex-lovers walking around in costume, staying in character, hoping to break up muttering about how they're going to break up the wedding, trying to get people on their side and all that stuff. And they're really selling it to you. You know, you're part of the production at that point. Now, our problem with Tony and Tina's wedding is like you have an opportunity to buy the ticket and you don't have to go if you don't want it. It's not like, you know, it's not taken from your paycheck like this horse shit that we're stuck in every time you turn on the television. But how much of political power is actually organic today? That's a good point. That's a good topic to come around to right now. We know that there's between digital manipulation and how much can you really trust elections and all that stuff to what end, but especially the USAID thing. Is it really a coincidence that half of a continent was suddenly able to all at once overcome leftist garbage? That's a pretty big coincidence. I mean, if the money really did dry up entirely, what would the world look like? That's what I'd like to know. You know, we talk about having elections all zipped up and wondering if they were cleaned up, what would California look like afterwards? And here we are looking at a continent that was fundamentally transformed around the same time that USAID was kicked to the curb. So that's all I have for you tonight on every level. Hopefully you got a little bit out of this. And tomorrow we'll have another wonderful. I have a couple different topics I'd love to throw you guys. I know we didn't have time for calls tonight. I didn't even give you any of this week's giveaways. I've got some incredible shit over here that I'm going to be giving away on Wednesday when we leave. I mean, first of all, take a look at this. I have a great this right here. Remember I showed you the picture of Dominic's ice cream truck that Anthony made a little bit more glowy, a little bit more nostalgic. He said, hey, take a look at this. And then Jay said, hey, it looks like it's on fire. I said, that's, you know, I told Lauren, I said, we got to start doing postcards that are absolutely 100% ours. And we got to find a really good printing method and all that stuff. So this right here is the postcard for the June 2026 Postcard Club. It's getting a very big upgrade. We're printing our own postcards, hopefully every month now. June is a picture of Dominic's ice cream truck, glowing, on fire. But who knows what we're going to pick to highlight for July. I can't wait. I want to take a good picture, and maybe it'll be some kind of a live action shot of me blowing off some kind of a firework or safely. But that's the other thing. We have 7. I think we got 50 of these, and we have about 43 Post Club members or something like that, postcard members. There's room for more on Patreon, Subscribestar. This got a major upgrade, but we also have 7 extra. If you're out there and you want one of these, you're one of those 7, just send a tip to PayPal and just include in the message your address, and away it goes. That's all I got for you. And until June 6th, your first month on Patreon is 90% off. And let me tell you something. As I'm bleeding over a little bit here tonight, watching A Bronx Tale with everybody on Friday night was so incredibly amazing. And I just love the film club. I love the film club. I know we're only going to watch one movie a month now that it's summertime. I know people are going to be out, so I just figure one Friday a month would be good, and not 2. We'll wait until fall to go back to 2 a month and all that stuff. But in July we have the book club. Everybody go get, if you're part of the whole thing, then please go get Huckleberry Finn, and we're going to start reading that on Monday the 6th. It's just a good time watching those movies with everybody live in the chat room, getting together afterwards. We're going to start taking calls a little bit after that too, just for a few minutes. It's really a wonderful experience. And then Sunday, the last 2 Sunday streams, we've been working out together. So we're getting workouts in. You're watching movies with us. There's so many other things, and that's just the universal perks of supporting the show. So please do. Thank you for everything for tonight. Let me check to see if anybody sent anything over, and we'll pick up where we left tomorrow. And I'll tell you, I've got piles of silver over here and chocolate and a few other things. I've got a commemorative $2 bill. This one came from Shake and Bake out there. So many more things. I wasn't able to present you with anything cool tonight. I probably just screwed up the whole week in that respect. Anyway, Jay Brits, thank you for the tip. Thank you so much. That's essentially all we have because I didn't pump anybody up. That was my fault. I should have did a little something. It's hard, you know. I don't want to. I got a lot of plates to spin over here, and I don't want to. Anyhow, Jay Semo on Rumble said, "Doubling down on failed ideas doesn't work. Excellent guest and discussion. Thank you, thank you so much, my friend." Let me see. Was there anything else over there? Nope. Slim pickings tonight. But again, that was all my fault, I guess. Not on Pilled though. Thank you, not your mom, Safety Net, Silly Boar, Sentinel, Molly Arty, Diana V. I'll read all these afterwards on the flip side. Sentinel again, Safety Net, Vesper, Icebox, Blue NDN Now, Doodah Man. Well, you guys, Pilled. Crazy. Anyhow, thank you guys. And we'll see you tomorrow night. It'll be a good one. Thanks again to Christopher Knowles. Bye-bye.
I'll catch you on the flip side.
Oh, yes. Hello, everybody. And goodbye. Thank you for everything. Thank you to all of our wonderful people out there. And of course, our guests will be back on tomorrow night, 7 o'clock. Check out our wonderful Sunday night premiere that we put out there. It was the final episode of Taking It Back with me and Zach and Adel. It was really a wonderful time. And if you have any kind of timestamps for any kind of clips or whatever the hell else, please get in touch with me. Comment below. Share it to whoever you got and become a sponsor. It's the greatest gift you can give me this year in my 20th year of work. And of course, it contributes to the Coconut Fund. So I'll see you guys soon. Have a great night. And come to the flip side. The link will be in the chat room. If you don't see it, go to quitefrankly.tv and press play. In the chat room.
Goodbye.
All right, that's it. Thanks everybody.